Welcome back. If you're looking to really get under the skin of history to understand the key moments without the usual noise, you're in the right place.
Exactly. This is our deep dive.
Today, we're digging into a really fascinating figure, Maloji Bhonsle, focusing on his early life and, well, the events that really set the stage for his family's later importance. We're drawing on details from a biography.
Right. And our sort of mission here for you listening is to trace that path. Where did Maloji start? What were the big hurdles? And what were those surprising twists? Because there definitely were some that led to his rise.
Yeah, sounds like quite the story. A perceived insult, maybe a vision, or really bold moves.
Got all those dramatic elements.
Okay, so let's jump in. The biography describes Maloji initially as pretty talented, strong, capable.
Very much so. It highlights his strength, his abilities. He quickly gained favor and became a Shiladar, a cavalry officer under the Nizam.
Okay.
But what's interesting and important for context is that he was still connected to Jadhavrao even then.
Ah, right. So it wasn't just a clean break, allegiance-wise.
No, not at all. It shows you that web of connections, you know? Loyalties could be pretty complex.
And while his career is starting to take shape, there's this personal struggle happening too, isn't there, with his wife, Jijabai?
Yes, the lack of children. The biography makes it clear this was a major source of, well, distress for both of them.
And their efforts to conceive the vows, the prayers, it really speaks to the time, doesn't it? The importance of lineage.
Absolutely. That piety, the specific vow mentioned at the shrine of Pir Shah Sharif, it underlines how central family and heirs were in that culture.
Which makes the eventual birth of their sons feel like a huge turning point. Shahaji, born in 1594.
And significantly named Shahaji after that very Pir.
Right, and then Sharifji later.
Yeah.
It must have felt like divine intervention.
You have to assume so. I mean, for them, and likely for others watching, it probably seemed like confirmation, like a blessing on the family. That naming is key. It directly links the birth to the vow.
Now, let's talk about young Shahaji and Jadhavrao. The biography suggests Jadhavrao grew quite fond of the boy.
He really did. It wasn't just passing politeness. The source says he took Shahaji home, dressed him in fine clothes, really doted on him.
So more than just acknowledging his officer's son.
Oh, definitely. It hints at a genuine affection, maybe even, thinking strategically about linking the families down the line. And Shahaji apparently interacted quite a bit with Jadhavrao's own young daughter, Jija.
Which leads us straight into that incident at the Shimga festival, Rang Panchami. Things take a turn.
A very unexpected turn. The scene described is quite vivid. It's the festival, everyone's celebrating, the kids Shahaji and Jija are playing.
Throwing colored powder, as you do at Rang Panchami.
Exactly. And Jadhavrao, seemingly in jest, asks Jija if she'd marry Shahaji. Then he turns to the guests and remarks something like, "They'd make a fine pair, wouldn't they?"
Just a lighthearted comment, you'd think.
You would think. But Maloji and his brother Vithoji, they pounced on it.
Immediately.
Right then and there, they stood up and declared it a formal betrothal announcement in front of everyone.
Wow, Jadhavrao must have been stunned.
Astonished is the word the source uses. Maloji and Vithoji even invoke the idea that great men don't go back on their public word. Talk about putting someone on the spot.
That's incredibly bold. Trying to force his hand based on a joke.
It really highlights Maloji's assertiveness, doesn't it? Using social pressure, public expectation.
But it backfired, at least initially. Jadhavrao's wife, Mansabdar, was not impressed.
Not at all. The biography is very clear about her reaction. For her, it was purely about status.
The difference in rank.
Exactly. Jadhavrao was a rich Mansabdar, a high-ranking noble. Maloji was, in her eyes, a common Shiladar. The alliance was unthinkable.
She was worried about what people would say.
Precisely, what the world would say. It shows you how rigid those social hierarchies were, especially concerning marriage. Protecting the family's prestige was paramount.
So Jadhavrao tried to walk it back, claim it was just a joke.
He did. But Maloji wouldn't budge. He insisted the betrothal was made.
And the results?
Jadhavrao got angry. Really angry. He dismissed Maloji and Vithoji from his service, told them to go back to their village, back to farming.
Ouch. That's a major step down. Humiliating.
Deeply humiliating, especially for someone like Maloji, described as having a haughty spirit. The source stresses that the rejection, explicitly because he lacked wealth and rank, cut deep.
And that becomes the motivation, right? That sting of rejection.
It seems to be the catalyst, yes. He becomes determined to improve his fortune, to gain the status he felt he deserved.
And this is where things get, well, a bit mystical. The vision of a bejeweled hand.
Maloji reportedly sees this hand beckoning from an anthill, and then Vithoji has a dream.
The goddess Bhavani.
Yes, Havani appearing to Vithoji, revealing a snake as her divine self, and crucially promising them wealth and that their descendants would rule for, I think it was 27 generations.
That's quite a promise. How do we interpret these accounts?
Well, whether you take them literally or not, what's important is the impact they likely had. They provided this powerful narrative of destiny, of divine favor. It would certainly strengthen their own resolve.
And maybe influence how others saw them too, like they were marked for something greater.
Exactly. It builds legitimacy. And the specific image of the snake as the goddess is quite striking in the account.
And then, almost immediately, they dig up the anthill.
And find treasure! A large amount of gold and gems, according to the source.
It's just, wow. Vision, dream, treasure. It lines up incredibly neatly.
It does. Coincidence, divine intervention, we can't know for sure. But the result was undeniable. Maloji suddenly had resources, real, tangible wealth.
And he didn't just sit on it.
No, he was smart. First, he spread the story, the divine favor narrative, deposited the money with a banker, Shasavanaik Pandey, for safekeeping and perhaps legitimacy.
And then, military power.
Right. He bought 1,000 horses, recruited soldiers. He started building his own independent cavalry force. This wasn't just about personal wealth anymore. It was about translating wealth into power.
He also made a point of showing piety doing good works.
Yes, very strategically. Donations to Brahmins, building a temple right there at the spot where the treasure was found.
Okay.
And maybe most significantly, constructing a huge water reservoir, a tank, near the Shambhu Mahadev temple. This was apparently a site for a large religious fair where water scarcity was a big problem for pilgrims.
So solving a real problem, earning massive goodwill.
Precisely. The source mentions the huge number of attendees benefiting. He also restored the Krishna temple, built other public works. It all burnished his reputation as a pious, capable, and possibly divinely favored leader.
So he's got wealth, he's got troops, he's got public support. Does he try again for the marriage alliance?
He does. He renews his demand for Jija's hand for Shahaji, leveraging his newfound status.
And Jadhavrao
Still refuses. Seems old prejudices, or maybe just stubbornness, died hard.
So Maloji ramps things up.
He does, starts harassing Jadhavrao's territories, and crucially, he forms an alliance with another powerful family, the Nimbalkars.
Adding their forces to his own.
Yep, that brought his strength up to around 2,000 horsemen, according to the source. That's significant pressure.
But even that wasn't enough, which leads to the most extreme act.
The incident at Dalkanabad. It's truly audacious. Maloji and Vithoji march there.
And they kill pigs.
And place the carcasses in a mosque. A hugely provocative, sacrilegious act.
Why would they do something so risky?
Well, alongside that act, they attached petitions to the mosque addressed to the Nizam Shahi Sultan himself.
Explaining their side.
Explaining their grievances, Jadhavrao breaking the betrothal promise, their unjust dismissal. It was a desperate, high-stakes gamble to force the Sultan's attention onto their dispute with Jadhavrao.
And the Sultan's reaction. You'd expect fury at the mosque desecration.
And he was angry, but surprisingly, his anger wasn't primarily directed at the bestows.
No, at Jadhavrao.
Yes. The Sultan apparently blamed Jadhavrao for causing the situation in the first place by breaking the betrothal. He saw Jadhavrao's actions as the root of the problem that led to this extreme act.
It's unexpected. What was the Sultan's thinking there?
Well, the source suggests a couple of things. One, the Sultan felt Jadhavrao's high status had maybe made him arrogant, and elevating Maloji could be a way to sort of humble him, rebalance things among the Maratha nobles.
Internal politics.
Internal politics, definitely. But also, the bigger picture. The Mughal Empire was expanding, pressing down from the north.
A major threat to the Nizam Shahi kingdom.
Huge threat. The Sultan needed a united front. He couldn't afford infighting among his key Maratha commanders. Allowing this feud to fester weakened his own position.
So keeping the Marathas loyal and unified, even if it meant overlooking the mosque incident, was strategically more important.
It seems that was his calculation. Conciliating the Bhonsle brothers, despite their shocking act, was seen as necessary for the stability and defense of the kingdom.
The outcome is just incredible then. What happened next?
The Sultan summons the Bhonsle brothers to court, but instead of punishment, he showers them with honors.
Honors? After what they did.
Astonishing, isn't it? Maloji is given the title of Raja, Both brothers get a mansab, a military rank, and land grant of 12,000 horse each.
12,000, that's enormous.
It's a very high rank, yes. It put them right up there in the nobility. And they receive strategically vital territories, the forts of Shivneri and Chakan, plus the districts of Pune and Supa as their jagir, or assigned land revenue. This was in March 1604.
A complete reversal. From dismissed farmers to powerful rajas in just a few years.
Driven by perceived insult, desperation, that discovery of wealth, and ultimately the Sultan's political calculation.
And the marriage? Jadhavrao must have had to agree now.
He had no choice. The Sultan's support for Maloji made further resistance impossible. The wedding of Shahaji and Jijabai finally happened in April 1604.
A grand affair, presumably.
Very grand. Held at Dalatabad, the capital. The Sultan himself attended, along with all the major nobles, the Umras. Maloji apparently spent lavishly cementing his newfound status.
And after all this drama, did Maloji prove worthy of the Sultan's favor? Did he serve well?
The biography indicates he did. He provided valuable service, both militarily and administratively, for the Nizam Shahi kingdom. His initial appointment might have been controversial, but his performance seems to have justified it.
And Shahaji, did he also rise?
Yes, Shahaji also gained favor at court. He was apparently well regarded for his own personality and abilities, not just riding on his father's coattails.
So Maloji enjoys this power and influence for some time.
For about 15 years, according to the source. 15 years of prosperity and influence after that tumultuous rise. He passed away in 1619.
And his legacy? What happened to his titles, his jagirs?
The Nizam Shah conferred them directly onto Shahaji. So Maloji's achievements, his hard-won status, became the foundation for the next generation. He truly established the Bhonsle family as a major force.
It really is quite a story. For you listening, it's such a powerful example of, well, ambition dealing with setbacks and how completely unexpected things can just change everything.
Absolutely. His journey from being a relatively ordinary officer, facing that deep personal slight, then the whole vision, dream, treasure sequence, and the Sultan's incredible intervention, it fundamentally shifts his family's destiny.
And those moments you mentioned earlier, those aha moments, they really stand out, don't they? The joke turning serious.
The discovery of wealth right after the divine promises.
The Sultan blaming Jadhavrao instead of Maloji for the desecration.
Yeah, those twists are what make it so compelling. It wasn't a straight path at all.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? About how personal drive, social rules, maybe even luck or fate all weave together to shape history. You have to wonder, what if Jadhavrao had just laughed off Maloji's interpretation of the joke back at the festival?
Right, or what if Maloji hadn't been so determined? Or if the Sultan had reacted differently, more predictably perhaps.
The whole course of events could have been so different. It really underscores how complex history is, how much hinges on individual choices and these unexpected turns. Something to definitely mull over.
I hope you like this chapter. We need volunteers and sponsors to create content with even better quality and with more variety. If you wish to join this initiative as a volunteer or sponsor, please click the links given in description below. To help us reach more viewers, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Biography Central. Thank you for your time. It means a lot. Namaste.